what is it like having a famous son? So I have 4 kids, and I just think my kids are the best in the world, and they're going to be something one day. But your son, he made it. So what's it like sharing him with the world?
Yeah, I'll be honest. When he sat me down about, 10 years ago, he was a junior at Lipscomb and he made straight A's. And he sat me down. He said, Mom, I'm going to drop out of college. And I'm like, no, you're not. He's like, no, really, I am. And I said, no, you're going to finish college and then get on with the rest of it. He was only 20, 21 years old, 20, I think.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, I really am going to drop out of college. And I cried and tried to stop it. And, because he wanted to sign a writing deal and then pursue a music career, just like his dad had done. And I was against it completely because I had lived it. And, it just wasn't the kind of family life that I wanted my son to have. And, it can be a dirty business. And so he, went on and did it. And I honestly he's always been talented. He's been singing since he was 2 and just very creative and talented, but I never saw it going the way that it has turned out to be. And it is really hard to share him with the rest of the world because, you think about, you can't go anywhere and just be, because there's always people that want to come up and get pictures and all that. And we understand all that. But it's been really hard as a mom. Number one, he would be gone all the time. So COVID in that sense has been good because he's been stuck at home. But then anytime you go anywhere, somebody wants a piece of him at all times. So we really do share him with the world. And so in that sense, it's been hard. Now, on the other side of it, they have been able to influence and just make a positive impact on the world. And that part of it has been awesome. And, the fun trips and all that, that's a perk.
Yeah.
I would say. But I've had a lot of mixed emotions through the years. This year, I feel great about it because he's been home so much.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's been hard on a mama's heart because he deals with a lot. He worries about what people say about him on Instagram and social media and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And he's had to really go through a lot of soul searching and, Bible reading, which we all need to do anyway, all kinds of things to kind of get to the point where he is now. And, it's been kind of a rough ride. I think everybody looks at it and sees all the glamour and the fun stuff, but, the behind the scenes can be pretty rough on you.
Yeah. And so Lauren, your daughter-in-law, just released her book, Live in Love. And I just finished reading it. And she does at the end of the book talk about just how hard it's been for them and going through counseling. And I loved how honest she was, because honestly, we look at celebrities, singers, music, actors, whatever. We look at them and think they have it all. They're so lucky. And it was really refreshing. I mean, I feel for them, but it was really refreshing to know that it's not perfect, but obviously you want the best for them. So you have kind of walked a similar road. You married Rhett Akins, country singer, songwriter, in 1989, correct?
I did.
And y'all split and you've since remarried, but did you feel like Lauren and Thomas were walking kind of a similar path? Were you able to help them better because of what you've been through?
Well, yes, I think definitely able to help Lauren better, because when you are married to someone in that spotlight, it's so easy to lose yourself. I took a different stance than Lauren did, and I just kind of stayed out of the whole thing. I think Thomas Rhett was maybe 7 and my daughter Casey was 3 when all of that started. And when I married Rhett, he was working for his dad in Valdosta, Georgia, and I assumed that's where we would stay.
Yeah.
And then he comes home one day and he said, hey, I want to go audition for this thing in San Antonio, Texas, where I would be singing it was kind of like an Opryland called Fiesta, Texas. And I was like, whatever, and he comes home and he said, hey, I got the part. And I'm like, well, what does this mean? Like, you're going to move to San Antonio and I'm going to stay here with Thomas Rhett. Thomas Rhett was 18 months old at that time. And he was like, no, this means you're coming with me to San Antonio, Texas. And I was like, oh, I'm 20 years old, maybe 21, barely 21, moving to Texas with my 18-month-old. Had never really, I mean, I had gone to college, but left my parents and all of my help, my support system. And we moved to San Antonio, where he sang in that country show. We only had to live there for about a year. Then we moved to Nashville, and it all happened so fast with his career. I mean, he got offered 3 record deals right after we'd been here, maybe a year. And so it just took off so quickly. I didn't even really have time to like think about what was going on. And then, you know, I just made the choice, because those bars and some of those shows can be a rough place for the wife to be.
Yeah.
It's different now, thank the Lord. But back then in the 90s, I mean, they didn't want Rhett to appear married, although he was, you know, would have him take his ring off and stuff like that. And so I just made the choice to stay out of it, which was, you know, probably wasn't great for our marriage, but I was busy raising my kids. And, you know, that's just how I did it. So I did tell Lauren, be visible, you know, and I fully believe Thomas Rhett is who he is in the country music world because of him and his and Lauren's relationship. I mean, I don't feel like he would be where he is today without her as his wife. And she has handled it with such grace. And he put up boundaries from the get-go of, you know, he didn't do it the way they did it back in the 90s. He, you know, didn't have a lot of girls around and that sort of thing. There were lots of rules in place that had to do with the bus. And, you know, they have just handled it beautifully.
Yeah. And she even talks about that in the book, that no girls backstage unless they're married to band members or they're like seriously dating. Same for the bus. And she talks about his lyrics are family friendly so that their children can listen. And he talks about God a lot. I'm sure that makes you really proud.
Very proud. Yeah.
Yes. I can imagine. I mean,
yeah. And once again, it's just different now than it was back in the 90s. You know, back then, I don't know, the music was just different. And I do feel like Thomas Rhett kind of started a trend. I mean, he's written 12 songs about Lauren specifically, and then some about his family. And, you know, there have been some songs where it did mention beer and stuff like that. But as he looks back on that, he does not really love that he did that. But, you know, you have to evolve. You have to evolve.
Yeah. Let me see. I had something. So going back to her book a little bit, she talks about growing up in a Church of Christ, and Thomas Rhett went to Lipscomb and you went to Lipscomb. I wasn't sure. Did you go to the same Church of Christ? Is that how y'all first met? Your families first met? Can you tell me about that?
Yes, we did. We all went to Madison Church of Christ, and it was my kids and Lauren. They all went to a school in Nashville. It's a Christian school. And a lot of the kids that went to that school went to the same church because it was just right down the road.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was raised going to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. We didn't miss unless somebody had a fever.
Yeah.
Actually, unless I had a fever. That was the only reason I could miss. Went to every VBS, went to everything. And Lauren was raised very similar to that. So when we moved to Nashville, you know, Rhett was traveling all the time. I just took him. I just took my kids and we went to church and we did all that. Thomas Rhett got very involved with the youth group there and loved doing church camps and stuff like that. And that's where he met Lauren, although they also went to school together at the Christian school in Madison.
And that was Good Pasture Christian
Yes,
school,
that's
right?
Good Pasture. And then I taught there for 10 years, you know, while I think Thomas Rhett's senior year was my first year teaching there.
Okay.
So we, you know, it was a great experience, great school, awesome for the kids. And he luckily got locked in with an awesome group of kids. And I think that's key to, you know, going through those weird teenage years.
Yeah. And Lauren calls them the crew in her book. And she talks about, in her book, she talks a lot about family and honesty and all their values. She calls her family Camp Gregory when she refers to everyone over there. So it was fun hearing about her side of it. Was your family life the same as you were transitioning through a divorce and remarriage. Like, what was Thomas Rhett's childhood like?
Yeah, I mean, Thomas Rhett had a great childhood. And, you know, even though Rhett and I divorced, and our divorce took probably 5 years, we maintained a good relationship through all of that. So, you know, we both worked really hard to make sure our kids didn't feel so separated and weird, and, you know, because we were going through a divorce. But yeah, Thomas Rhett grew up very similar, and he was over there an awful lot over at the Gregory's house, and they would come over to our house. And when I started, after me and Rhett were divorced and me and Tim started dating, we took our first trip with the Gregorys because we just all bonded. I had been friends with Lisa, Lauren's mom, just from school and stuff. But after me and Tim got married, they had gone to a football game one night. I was home with Tyler because we also have a 15-year-old, and he was a baby at the time. And they went to dinner with Lauren and Macy, and my daughter Casey and Macy, Lauren's sister, are best friends. So we had lots of ties. But this first trip that we took is really when that all happened. And they were just sitting there and they're like, hey, let's go on a cruise. And my husband was like, yeah, let's do it. And he came home and said, we're going on a cruise with the Gregorys. And I was like, what? Okay. I don't even think Tim and Steve, Lauren's dad, had even met at that point. Thomas Rhett and Lauren were dating. They were freshmen in high school. And so I thought, oh, I don't know if we should do this, but it'll be fine because we'll all be there. And we did. We had a great time. And, you know, Thomas Rhett, I think she wrote about in her book where he went out the door of our room and could have died. I mean, honestly, went into her balcony right there. And they told us that the next day. And I was like, I am literally going to kill you. But that's where our friendship blossomed. And then from that point forward, I mean, that's who we traveled with. That's who we went on trips with. And Thomas Rhett and Lauren dated a little bit then, and then they broke up and didn't really date again until, you know, they were out of college. They remained best friends, and then daughters being best friends, and then, you know, parents being best friends. We loved it. And the dream of your son marrying one of your best friend's daughters, I mean, that has been awesome.
Yeah, like the perfect setup because you're sharing grandchildren with best friends and all of that. Yeah, when I read that story about him climbing out the window, I was like, I have to take a moment. Just that scared me. I've been on one cruise and I just could imagine. Crazy.
I hope his kids don't do that to him one day.
Yeah. So when Lauren told the family she was writing a book, and it's a memoir at that, so sharing their life behind the scenes and all that, what did you think? Were you surprised?
Well, first of all, I thought, do you know how to write a book? You know, I mean, if somebody told me to write a book, I'd be like, yeah. But I was, you know, open to it and didn't really realize quite how, I mean, Lauren's an open book too. We all are, but I really didn't realize quite how open she was going to be, you know, on a lot of the things. But it was a weird process because the ghostwriter, I guess is what they call him, comes and you basically just start talking through, you know, your relationships and your life. And we spent a lot of time with him, and Lauren spent a lot of time with him, obviously. And it's just it's an interesting process. And then to see it all in, you know, she emailed us the final copy, which with some tweaks, and wanted us to look and see if anything in the book offended us or that we needed to change or anything like that. And reading the book was just so emotional. Hold on, something there. It was just so emotional. And, you know, I laughed, I cried. It was like a journey through a life that I was actually a pretty big part of too. So I loved reading the book after it was completely finished, and then, you know, with the pictures and everything that was in there. And it's just a crazy process. I mean, I was all for it, of course, for her to do that. It was a lot of work for her. And then, you know, having a baby in the middle of all that, and just, you know, their 3 kids, and just everything that was going on when it came time to promote the book, it got a little nutsy. But I'm very proud of Lauren. I think, I couldn't ask for a better daughter-in-law, a better example for my grandkids, and for my 15-year-old. I mean, she's an awesome resource for him, because it takes a village.
Yeah. So what was it like reading your son's love story through her perspective? Because she does talk about how they saved themselves for marriage and they were virgins, and she kind of gets into some stuff. And I felt like, should I be reading this? So what was it like for you?
Okay. Well, first of all, our family, there is no subject that we don't talk about. Like, some people would probably walk in here and be like, y'all are weird, but we have always, that's one thing that we have had in common with the Gregorys, is we talk about everything. And so I already knew all of that. I knew it as it was happening, because there was such an attraction between Thomas Rhett and Lauren. It was almost like they had to hurry up and get married. It was almost like they courted each other for all of these years and didn't really know they loved each other until, she talks about that kiss on her front porch. And from that moment on, it was on, and let's get them to the altar as quickly as we can. And, in this day and age, people don't save themselves for marriage as much. And I feel very proud, I get emotional talking about this, because it's their special love story can be an example to so many young kids. I'm praying that my daughter just got married, and I'm praying that my son follows suit, and with 2 examples in his life that can say, hey, this is possible for you to do this, when the world tells you it's not possible. The world tells you, go out there, do whatever you want to do, but God doesn't. And, with 2 human examples that he can look to, I feel very blessed in that sense too.
Yeah. So I'm sure a lot of that comes from your Church of Christ roots and what y'all believe. And it seems like in the book that her and Thomas have kind of moved away from Church of Christ. She talks about going to like a more modern. Have you stayed with Church of Christ, or have you also kind of?
We are still Church of Christ, but we have gone to a couple of a different church for a while that kind of dropped the Church of Christ name. Basically to just draw in more people. It's more of a community type church. Yeah. I will say my views have changed a lot through the years, just, regarding the music, but, and stuff like that. But they're, the church they go to is more of a community type church. It does have, some music in the service, if they could ever go back to church, that is. Yeah. Our church is open, and we have been going back. And I go to a very traditional Church of Christ. But I remember back in the day when they were in high school, and him wanting to go to one of the Baptist churches that had a very active youth group. And I was like, oh, no, you can't do that. Just kind of freaked out and called my dad. And I was like, can he do this? Is this okay? And my dad was like, you got to look at it like this. If your kid is wanting to go to 2 churches and he's getting more church, send him. And I was like, you do have a point. Although it just bothered me. I let him go. But then, it's just, things have just changed through the years. And while we do still go to Church of Christ, my views have changed. And, I think Lauren and Thomas Rhett's have too.
Yeah, especially with music being just such a part of their lives. I'm sure they're looking for that in their worship. And yeah. So is it hard going to church? Like, since they're famous, are they able to just go and no one bothers them? And
yeah, that's another reason for going to this church, because they went to a few where they couldn't go. People just couldn't couldn't get past the fact that Thomas Rhett was at their church. But at this church, they're just Thomas Rhett and Lauren. They don't get bombarded with anything. And, it's just a really, and too, being in Nashville, you got to consider, there's country music stars everywhere you go.
Yeah.
So it's not as big of a deal in Nashville, but at some of the churches they were going to, I think it was an issue.
Yeah, I can imagine. So is it hard? I mean, you have Thomas Rhett's your son, and then now Lauren's just got a bunch of followers, and she's got 1 million followers, a couple million. So is it hard for you to go to church or to go anywhere as well? Or?
Not really. I mean, if people know who I am, and sometimes they do, it's not enough to bother me in any way. So no. And you do have this in the back of your mind: is, do they like me because I'm Thomas Rhett's mom?
Mhm.
You do kind of deal with some of that kind of stuff, and I worry about it with my son because he and Grayson, Lauren's brother, have grown up being Thomas Rhett's brother and brother-in-law. And, you do have to worry about girls and,
Mhm.
what do people want from them? Like, are they really just wanting to be their friend because they want to be their friend? Or is it because they're Thomas, they want to see what they can get from Thomas Rhett?
Yeah.
So I do have my guard up, especially with him. I'm a big girl. I can, make my own choices. But, you know, I keep my old friends sacred because they've been my friends from the beginning.
Mhm.
And I think that's why we are such a close family as well, because, your family is your family. Like, they don't like you just because of Thomas Rhett. But, new friends, it's a little bit harder because you always have that question in the back of your mind, especially if it gets brought up a lot, or can you get me tickets? And, the first couple of years of him doing this, I would get messages all the time from people I haven't talked to in 20 plus years. Can you get me tickets? Can Thomas Rhett sing at my wedding? Can he come to dinner with us? All this stuff. And at the beginning, all the charities, everybody wants something. And I get that. But I had to stop. Like, I don't even do tickets and stuff for my very best friends. And I had to do it because it was hurting my relationship with him. Because it got to the point where every time I saw him, which was not a lot because he was on the road so much, I had a stack of pictures. Can you sign all these pictures for this charity? Can you sign this guitar for this charity? Can you do this because this lady has cancer? And all of these things are good things, but it was becoming between my relationship with him. And I just got to the point where I was like, no more. And so now I kindly say, to protect my relationship with my son, I cannot do this.
Yeah, well, that's probably really hard because you want to help people, but you also really need to protect that relationship. So
Yes.
I cannot imagine.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine what that's like. So Thomas Rhett, they have 3 children now, and they all came really fast, really recently. So how old are they? And do you have a grandma name? Did you pick it? Did they pick it? I want to know about that kind of stuff.
Yes. My name is Gigi.
Okay.
And we went through lots of different names. I think Pippi was one, and Honey, and but Gigi is what we landed on. And Willa Gray came first. She'll be 5. Actually, Sunday she'll be 5.
Oh, fun.
And then Ada James is 3, and Lennon is 8 months. And they Gigi, that's what they call me all the time. And they're just pure joy. But now listen, you got to have some energy.
Yeah.
So I do keep them a lot. I want to. But I usually keep either the big girls or Lennon. Like, I haven't done all 3 of them overnight by myself yet.
Yeah, it's a lot. Because there are 5. Do what?
Me and Lisa, Lauren's mom, and my husband and her husband have gone to their house and kept them all, at the same time. But it's tough to do all 3 of them because my kids were so spread out. Thomas and Casey were 4 years, and then Tyler was 15 years later.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so fun though. So what is Lisa's mom called?
Bunny. Yeah.
Did the kids help with the names, or did y'all just think of them on your own?
No, we just kind of came up with them on our own because we had a while to think about it because, we knew Willa Gray was coming home for such a long time. And then, so we went through all the names in the book, it seemed like. But she's Bunny, and her husband is TV because his name is Stevie. Okay. I'm Gigi, and my husband is Paps. And then Rhett is Pops, and his wife is Lolly.
Oh, that's cute. Lollipops.
Yeah, it's cute.
So she does talk in her book about adopting Willa Gray from Uganda. What did you think when you heard that? Did you think, oh, that sounds just so much like them, or were you shocked? Or
oh no, I wasn't shocked. I was thrilled because honestly, I had always wanted to adopt, just never, didn't have the money, didn't have the time, all the things that keep people from doing it. And so it was almost like we were living vicariously through them. But I remember him calling me from over there one time, just so upset because there's that is not an easy process. And, you feel so helpless because there is nothing I could do, nothing. Mm-hmm. And at one point, I got my shots to go over there. I did work at Good Pasture full time at that point. So, we were going to divide it up and Lisa go, and then I was going to go because we didn't know if Lauren was going to have to be over there for even longer than she already was. And Thomas Rhett was flying back and forth, trying to do shows and keep things going. And then Lauren, ends up getting pregnant with Ada James while she's, in Africa. And the whole thing was just so overwhelming. And it was every single day we had this prayer group going through a text, and Lauren would tell us what specifically to pray for that day. And we would, and, sometimes it would go the way we wanted it to. And sometimes there were setbacks, lots of tears, happy tears, sad tears, all of it. And then when she got home, it was just such a huge relief. But, then you also were like, then it kind of hit you. Okay, we've adopted a child, which we are all going to help raise, but there's so much that could go wrong. There's, and you just have to learn to live like God's going to make whatever happen. And you just learn to deal with it. And that's always been Lauren's attitude. Because when you do adopt a child, you don't know what they're going to turn out to be, and all the struggles of, right now she's the only African-American child in a white family that has challenges. And, as she gets older, that's going to be stuff to deal with. And, so it's a lot of, you just have to lean on God and pray. And so far, everything has been great. I mean, from day one, she just felt like ours and felt like she fit in. And, I forget sometimes that she's adopted. Like, I don't, but when I sit and think about where she comes from and how her life could have been and all, I can't even go there in my brain. So I just choose to not think about it, which might not be the best way to do it. Mm-hmm. But I can't even imagine her not being ours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I read that whole story and when they finally got the news that she was theirs, I started crying and I was like, I don't even know these people, but I'm so invested. I mean, it was just, it's such a cool story. And
it was that. And that seems like so long ago. And really it was, I don't know, 3.5 years, I guess.
Yeah.
But it just, I can't even think about it without crying. Like, think about them telling us she's coming home, when she got home, and then thinking about what her life could have been. Mm-hmm. I just can't even go there.
Yeah. Well, I can tell y'all have just such good hearts. You're such good people. And it makes me proud to have my kids listen to Thomas Rhett and follow your family. And my oldest is just now 13. So she's getting into music and Instagram and all that. So it's nice to have someone that's clean with like a good, and to also be like, look, they grew up Church of Christ. And I mean, it's just really neat. So what about the rest of your family? What are your other kids up to? And you have two.
My daughter, Casey, just got married 2 weekends ago.
Wow.
It was a lot, it was, I think the county where they got married, we could have gatherings up to 500 people. 2 weeks ago. Now that may have changed, but it's very different planning a wedding during COVID and having to have thermometers and face masks and all that kind of stuff. And it rained, that hurricane was coming through. So, but it was fun. Everybody had a good time. So they're married and they bought a house in the midst of all that. They live probably 8 minutes one way. And Thomas Rhett and Lauren live 8 minutes the other. So I'm right in the middle of them.
Nice.
And then my son, Tyler, is 15. He's a freshman. And we just moved over into the Nashville area, and he changed schools this year. He's not at Good Pasture this year, just for, just a change, just to be closer to family and stuff. And, so we run around and do all the things that you do with a freshman in high school. He'll be driving in April, and I'm excited and crazy upset about that.
Yeah.
You know, and then the grandkids come over all the time, and we go over there and we, you know, just do the normal things that everybody does.
So have y'all been okay during the pandemic? Like, I mean, I guess that keeps Thomas Rhett at home. Has that been good?
It's been really good because, you know, Lennon was born in February, and then March was when it all happened. And it was very hard at the beginning because we were at the beach when everything kind of shut down. And when we got home, Lauren and Thomas Rhett had already started quarantining because everybody was so scared of everything back then. And she had actually said, hey, if you want to quarantine with us, come home now. And at that point, I was like, what? No, I don't even know what's going on here. Not realizing that I would not get to see them for 6 weeks. So Thomas Rhett turned 30 during that time. I went over and sang happy birthday to him through a window and didn't get to hold Lennon for 6 weeks or touch the girls. We did do, like, for Tyler's 15th birthday, we did like a drive-by thing, and they drove by, and Willa and Ada just could not understand why I couldn't pick them up and hug them and all this kind of stuff. They couldn't come inside my house. And so we did all that for about 6 weeks, maybe 8. And then, you know, slowly, gradually kind of got back to normal within our family. But then we were still very scared to be around my parents because my mom's 75, she has asthma. And so it went a lot longer with her. But then May 28th, I turned 50, and they planned a big surprise party for me at the beach. And my mom and dad were there. It was the first time I'd seen them since COVID happened, and tons of family and friends and all of that. So that was kind of special. And then from that point, I mean, we're, you know, social distance, wear a mask, but we're not staying away from each other.
Yeah. We're all, I think everyone's trying to do the best they can now. So will he have is he trying to do any more shows in the future? Like, what's his future look like?
So, I mean, he's doing a lot of virtual stuff and has been throughout the whole pandemic. But what they did was they picked up his tour schedule from 2020 and just moved it to the exact same dates in 2021. So it looks like June will be when he starts touring again, you know, hopefully. And if not, you know, if things don't go that way, then
adjust.
Everything's just up in the air, you know, but they do have it scheduled, the tour, to be in June of 2021.
Okay. So one last question I have to know. What is your favorite song of his? And has he written a song for you?
No, not really for me. No, he hasn't really written a song for me.
He should.
He should definitely do that. It probably make me cry. I mean, you know, some of the songs do make me cry. I love all of his songs, but I love like the upbeat kind of hip hoppy ones. I don't know. And so when I get in my car, I blast. I don't know even if you know, but I Feel Good from I think his second album, maybe, and then Up on the album that he has out now. And I do love all the songs, but these are ones that haven't been on the radio. And I love that song he did with Chris Tomlin. Thank You, I think is the name of it.
Okay.
I love that one. And then he's got a lot of new stuff that I'm just like, send me that. But, you know, I don't think I've ever heard a Thomas Rhett song that I didn't like. And that could be because I'm his mom. I don't know. It's hard to really decide. But to me, he just keeps getting better and better and more mature with his, you know, and he's just so creative. I mean, he doesn't just sing. He cooks. I think he can draw most anything. He had a knee surgery when he was a junior in high school, and he couldn't go anywhere, and he sat and painted, you know. And he's just a very creative person. And anything he touches, he can do. He's kind of one of those people you just want to punch him because he can do everything.
Punch him, but you're also proud of him.
Yeah.
Do y'all listen to him a lot, or
Yeah.
that weird?
When I'm in my car by myself, I have a CD. I don't know how to do the Bluetooth thing. I know I'm old fashioned, but I just, when I'm in the car by myself, I crank it up. Tyler listens to him a good bit, but there's a lot of other people he listens to as well. He loves all that hip hop stuff, which I kind of do too.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do. We listen to him a lot, but he's not all we listen to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was just so fun to talk to you and kind of get like a little peek behind the curtain. But yeah, it was an honor to talk, just to have you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. You're so sweet.
Yeah.
From you, Laura Akins, I was like, oh, who is this? Thinking she's Lauren.
Oh, how funny. I on Instagram, I'll get random, because mine's private. I'll get random people that I don't know that want to follow me. And then I think they figure out, oh, that's the wrong one. And then
I know, it's so funny. So it's a running joke in our family. We call Lauren Laura all the time, and it just drives her crazy.
She hates it. Well, I like it.
You related to